So, welcome everyone to PowerMonday. I know people are still logging in, and this is a community that's been growing for over 5 years. We love this. We have this every Monday morning, except when it's a public holiday in the country, Kenya, and we are glad to create a platform where people share information, share knowledge that enable us to grow in various fields, in career, in business, and in life. And our happiness is that you may thrive in life, that you may be able to grow and live your dream. Power Monday is always hosted by Live Your Dream, co-sponsored by ICT Gurus. So welcome aboard, and I'd like to invite uh, Nancy Mora, aka Dr. Lucita, the poetess, to start us off.
Good morning, everyone. I hope we are doing well. As usual, it's from County 046. As the name suggests, if this is your first time here, as the name suggests, Power Monday, we are the powerhouse that demystifies the fact that Mondays are boring days. Mondays are beautiful days where all the dreamers and the doers meet. I have two tasks. I want to do a simple poem titled Unity. Then I'll proceed and introduce the speaker. Unity. Unity has a common heartbeat. Kindness and convictions tend to meet. Together, it makes the world complete. So we rise as one and we never tend to fail. We have a single voice that you might call it. And I say no wall is too wide and no dream is too small because we united. It is a thread that binds both you and me and us. From the highest of the mountains to the deepest of the sea, it is strength, and we all agree with one voice. We are united. Where love is so loud and fear is no longer hard. Together we climb every hill, every mountain. Side by side we stand as one united. Because unity is not just a word, it is an act. Because we are united, a bond that is unbroken and undeterred. As together, we united with unity. Thank you. I will proceed and introduce the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged today to have Carol Peters Ngesa. He is an innovative, result-oriented coach consultant. He has been over 7 years as an experience with 8,000 coaching hours. Amazing. The speaker exudes confidence in below the surface coaching. It triggers strength, career and life purpose discovery, and it releases personal potential in people. As a consultant trainer, he administers learning style, discovery tools to enhance effective learning. He is a coach for the other coaches for having amassed over 500 coaching hours, helping other successful coaches thrive in their coaching branding. Amazing. Our speaker today, ladies and gentlemen, he has led over 2,600 clients through self-awareness and building authenticity coaching, where He administers MBTI tests and issues related reports, that is communications, career conflict, personal impact, and leading in style. In his career, in his education, he went to the University of Nairobi. He has done transformational leadership coaching. He's done strategic cell ministry international. And he's done an MA in environmental policy from, again, the University of Nairobi, Parklands. Wow, amazing. In his additional skills, he is a trained and certified MBTI personal consultant, NLP coach, and is keen on training people on how to build emotional intelligence in relationship at work. In his personal interest, he loves reading books on leadership and organizational development and transitional leadership. His motivation lies in availing skills, techniques that make people discover their potential to live purposeful lives as ingrained in the will of God. His interest emanates from helping people to discover the solutions packed within themselves. Since childhood, he's always tried to help people to do this in many, many, many ways. Ladies and gentlemen, queens and kings, allow me to introduce our speaker today, Carol Peters Ngesa. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm so honored to be part of this group. I think it's going to be my third week. I think third week to be a member of this group. And I'm already sold out. My heart is sold out for this group. I'm loving what I see you guys do online. And upon being invited, I was just so thrilled to come and share what I have. Now, before I begin, I just remember the words of the one who has just introduced me. And she's talked a lot more about harmony, how harmony is not just something to think about. Harmony is something that is supposed to be achieved. And so in the course of our lives, we are looking for harmony in our relationship. We are looking for harmony in our workplaces. We are looking for harmony even within our own selves. And for me, today, I want to take you through a small presentation. Whatever I'm trying to present is so big, but I hope that I will try to make it so small that anybody can go around and understand. So let me just try to do this right now.
Does it?
Now that's it?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Oh yes, now, there we go. So conflict comes as a result of a variation between what is expected, expectations that we have in life, and the results that we get. Basically, we can summarize that the reason why people are conflicted largely is because there is an expectation somewhere, and these expectations are not being met. Now, what compels human behavior could give us a background to why we are conflicted and why and where conflict comes from. And my theory of solving conflict lies in the foundation of three basic backgrounds of human behavior. That is the design of humans, the development of humans, and the decisions that we make. And when I say design, I mean your nature, the nature that was brought into you when you're born. And when I talk about development, I mean the nurturing that you've had. And the decisions is largely to do with the choices that you have And so my background in this presentation is to make the assumption that the actions and whatever influences human behavior is basically on three things: your design, the way you've been developed, and the decisions you make. Now, what is preemptive conflict management, and what is the model? Now, just to give you a small definition of what preemptive conflict management is, this is you stepping back before conflict happens, and so that you're in a position to take care of you when you're going to be less conscious. What do I mean by this? I mean, conflict, from my definition, comes from the place of design. And so in the preemptive conflict management model, my model is basically based on 4 tenets. That is discovering your purpose, discovering your design, helping you to distinguish what your design is from what others are. And then now you can design the life that you want to live. And then now you can deploy. I've used the word design, so let me just try to make it more clear. When I talk about discovering your design, I mean discovering your personality. And when I say personality, I mean the unique design that God has put in you. So one of the biggest challenge that people have is that we just do things without knowing exactly how God has formed us. And so part and parcel of solving conflicts before they happen is so that you should be self-aware. You need to know yourself so clear that if somebody talks about you, you can already say, you know what, that's me. And so the first stage is to discover, lead you through discovery. The second is to lead you into a place where you can get clarity in terms of how you function, so that you can get the wiring of your personality. And then the third stage is to help you through working intentionally in the leadership of your own personal design, because we are all different. And then the fourth stage is to help you deploy. How do you become a better version? How do you get results? Now, there's a reason why we have this model, and I'm just going to walk with you to help you understand further why preemptive conflict management is a better way than waiting for conflict to happen. Now, like I've said, preemptive conflict management is rooted on the Jungian MBTI personality. And I want to make it very clear that these are mental faculties. They are mental functions and mental attitudes. And the mental altitudes and mental functions, every human being have got all these mental functions and mental orientations. The only problem is, from our design, there are certain faculties that are more closer to us. We perceive some more functions than others. And so when it comes to solving problems, when it comes to even doing careers, you realize that there are some people who are oriented towards certain careers. There are people who are oriented towards certain tasks. There are people who are oriented towards better problem solving than others. And the reason why is because these are actually instinct gifts that has already been put in your body. But the good thing is everybody has got all these functions, but the only problem is the functions are in different locations. The functions are in different positions. Let me explain further. Whatever I just explained is that we need to take you through discovery so that you can get clarity of how you function, and so that you can make better designs in terms of the results you want in your relationship, and so that you can become a better person. And so we have this This model that we say, know yourself so that you can heal yourself. This is the same process that I was just trying to explain, that you need to have clarity, you take ownership, and then now you can leverage on exactly the results that you want, and then you can become a better version of yourself. Now, the regular way of solving problem usually is about finding what the problem is, considering the options and the possibilities of solving the problem, weighing the rationale of problem solving, and then weighing the impact on the humans that you're dealing with. Now, whatever you see here, these 4 things, these are 4 different cognitive functions. But the problem is nobody has got a perfect set of cognitive functions. The cognitive functions come in different positions. So you might find that somebody has got the ability to know what the problem is. But the other thing is the ability of looking at, considering different possibilities could be even the 4th level. Let me explain to you. The cognitive functions that we have got natural effectiveness. For example, the first cognitive function, which is called the dominant function, is always effective up to 50%. These are things that you don't even have to be taught. Have you ever wondered where somebody is asking you to help him do something, and before they even finish asking you the question, you're already answering? Why? Because the dominant function in every personality are effective to up to 50%. The auxiliary cognitive function is always effective up to 30%. Now, the last 2 cognitive functions in every single personality are always 15 and 5%. And sometimes you find that somebody's decision-making abilities is lying on this 5% or 15%. So you realize that this is the reason why we have a lot of problem when it comes to solving conflict and solving problems. Let me make a disclaimer. The cognitive functions that humans have largely function, the 50% and the 30%, these are the first 2 cognitive functions that you have. And the way from the design of the human being, these are the functions that you use to do your everyday work. The problem is when you're stressed, anybody who is under stress, your body, your design starts using the last 2, the last 4 cognitive functions, which are really not effective in solving problems. Let me explain further. So in the human development, if you find an environment where people are intentional about helping you understand about the design, and this is largely what happens in the West, by the 8th age, most children are aware of, or even parents can be able to spot the cognitive function of their children. They can tell whether these children is very good in several stuff that are related to their cognitive function. But when this is left normally, it takes another 8 years. Now, for those who have got difficult upbringing, the dominant cognitive function shows up only when somebody is about 18 years old. Remember, these are the most important mental faculties in either education, in learning, in doing tasks. Have you ever wondered why some people that you knew when they were young, they showed up as if they had a problem? And then later on in life, you find they're just functioning okay. Why? Because they had a delayed learning. And this learning has nothing to do with education. It's about being aware of how their brain functions. And look at the auxiliary, between 12 and 20. But look at the inferior cognitive function. Most of us in this group are either maybe 35 and above, or maybe 35 and below. And so by the time you are 35, some of us have not even been able to have the inferior functions developed. So basically, these are people who don't have critical ability of even solving problems. And there are so many people who die even before they are 35. You wonder why? Why they die because of conflict? Why some people kill each other when they are below 35? It's because the most important cognitive functions for problem solving have not even been developed. Some develop them up to 80 years. You wonder why this guy was such a wicked man. By 80, you see them, they're okay. Why? Because it takes time if you are not intentional. And guess what? Every single human being has got all these cognitive functions. The question is, how intentional are you in allowing your cognitive function to grow? But you know, awareness allows you to enable those cognitive functions start growing. Now, in a normal situation, like I'd explained before, when you have a situation where you want to solve a problem, normally, the first step of solving a problem is to look at the merits of what the problem is, right? And then the second thing is you want to find out, what patterns do I see here? What theories can I apply? And then what is my analysis okay? And then what are the emotional impact? But believe you me, the way you see this is called the Z model for problem solving. This is a perfect situation and no human is perfect. So as you look at the Z model, you might find that there's somebody or an individual personality whose cognitive function is beginning with F. Instead of being able to look at what the problem is, their natural design is taking them to a place of how will people feel as being the first cognitive function. And in that situation, you find that their first cognitive function is 50% effective. And their last cognitive function, which might be talking about what is the problem, is 5% effective. Have you ever wondered why you can never seem to agree with some people? This could be the reason why. But the good thing is, if you know the model of decision making, you can be in charge of your own, no matter what your cognitive function is, and no matter what the stack of your cognitive function. Why? Because there's not a single human being who has got the perfect blend of because you are either sensing or you are either intuitive. You are either thinking or logical, or you are either emotional in terms of your mental faculties. Now, as I had hinted before, that we are dealing with mental functions and mental attitudes. Now, the mental attitudes and the mental functions are actually functions of every single human being. For example, you've ever heard of people say, so-and-so is introverted and the other one is extroverted. All these are functions that make us human beings. There should be a time where being introverted is helping you solve the problem. But then there's a time that being extroverted is gonna be solving your problem. But now, if they are left alone, you might find a totally different shift in terms of how your natural tendency comes into solving problem. But this is actually a model that the moment you know how your cognitive functions and your mental attitudes are, you can pause for a second and say, you know what, I know how my brain works. So because I know I might move towards a particular functions, let me pause and just see exactly what this problem I'm trying to solve. Like here, the attitudes here, finding your autonomy should be the first stage. Inclusion of others, response, at the same time priorities. But however, you find that these things are never in the same order for everyone. And there's not a single human being that have got the same kind of design. For example, allow me just to give you an example of one of the personalities. Now, this is a real personality, but look at the way the mental functions are. So this person, when there's a problem, when this is not even a problem situation, this is somebody trying to solve a solution without stress, not under any duress. So this person, this particular personality you see here, their mental function is at 50% being able to pick up the issues of emotions and being considerate about people. And then the second is about intuition. So feeling is about how people are going to be getting the impact. Intuition is about the possibilities. Now, sensing is really trying to define what is the real problem. And thinking is talking about what is the logical analysis. So if this was you realize that most of the time, this person is always making mistakes when it comes to logical analysis of solving any problem. But if this person is aware, what would he do? He would spend more time in number 3, being intentional, stepping back and saying, you know what, let me try to find out what is really the problem. So if this was you, and you're aware that this is the exact design that you have naturally, you will know that, you know what, when you're trying to solve any problem, you're going to start with number 3, then you're going to go to number 2, then you'll go to number 4, and then you end up in number 1. And what will this do? The moment that awareness comes in, instead of waiting for your mental faculties to develop by the time you are 35 or 40, you'll find that your mental faculties and your mental attitudes are going to grow even before that time comes up. Now, this is how the cognitive functions play us into having conflict. Remember, I've tried to mention this thing called the mental faculties, like SE. SE is the ability to be observant. Now, if you're somebody who has got the natural gift of being able to be observant, you realize that the last cognitive function is going to be perspective, which is NI. And what does NI do? It shines inside, because NI tries to find out how things are interconnected. Now, if you're somebody who leads with exploration, which is extroverted intuition, it means that you're somebody who is generally curious. You want to know what's going on. But guess what? Because you're somebody who is always an explorative person, what that thing does is, because you're so used to using that mental function, you realize that everything to do with the past, you might not even remember. Like, for example, I fall in the place of this NE, the second one. I hardly even have memory of what I had when I was in my lower primary school. I have to get help into remembering. I can't tell you the number of times I'm trying to start something that I already have. Now, you see the TE, which is actually a function of effectiveness. This is a function that helps you become very meticulous. And you can see all these functions are functions that are human. These are functions that are supposed to help us solve problems. The question is, how aware are you about the mental functions that you have? And could this be the reason why you are having challenges in your relationship? Could this be the reason why you're having challenges in your job, in your dating, in everything that you're doing? Now, the moment you get to know about how these cognitive functions come into place, you'll be in a better place to know exactly how to make your presentation before they even happen. Let me just come back and say this. The preemptive conflict management is made of 4 different facets, helping you discover your personality, and getting you into a place where you know how your mental wiring is, so that you can recognize how your mental functions and mental attitudes are. And then when you do that, it is possible for you to be in a place where you can design the kind of results you want. And what will that do? If you are living a life where you are oriented in the designs you're looking for, it is possible for you to be in a place where you can be in charge of your conversational intelligence. I know this is not an easy thing, but I had to try to make it as fast as I could. Now, for you to be in a better place where we can be talking about this, it's important for you to do a test. It is important for you to do a small version of the MBTI personality test, which I've shared with my brother, Paul Peter. Now, you can do this, and then now maybe the next time you're having a conversation, we can be talking about you looking into your own design. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome to questions time, and we are all. You can put your questions in the chat. I'd like to maybe just get clarification just to start that in essence we are supposed to. That's what you mean, that we are supposed to understand ourselves, understand the various faculties that are at play or cognitive functions. And so, because we may be different with somebody else, we are at conflict. And if we know where they are coming from, where we are coming from, or what cognitive functions there are, then we may be able to avoid drama, unnecessary drama. Is that what you mean?
Really, the thing is, the moment you know about how the cognitive functions work, then you know exactly the strengths you have and you know the weaknesses that you have. And so when you know the weaknesses you have, if you're looking towards making a better presentation somewhere else, now you know exactly what part of you that you need to grow. I would tell you that all of us, all human beings, we have some kind of drama, because there's not a single personality design that is well ordered. So you realize that even in your life, there are people who are very good in solving problems, especially related to emotions. But there's some people who are always missing it. And you wonder, why does this guy miss it all along? It's because, you know, the cognitive functions that they have are not in a place of strength. Some of them would take several years for them to grow these functions. So if you know exactly where you are, you know, this is almost like, you know, the way you go to the doctor and they find your blood type. And so next time when you know you need somebody to give you blood, we know you're O positive or A whatever. I mean, then you can just plug they're just gonna put the right blood on the whatever, you know, that kind of thing. So the biggest problem is in Africa, these are things that most people only test you when they're trying to give you a job. They are gonna make you do some quiz. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to test your mental faculties. They test you at work and they don't even tell you. When you're applying for certain jobs, they're gonna take you through some quiz when you're gonna ask you questions, and then they tell you. And really what they're simply trying to do, they're trying to find your mental attitudes. They're trying to look for your mental perceptions. Now, the moment you know exactly the kind of role that you want, it is possible for you to even, I mean, if you're looking for the job, you can know exactly how to answer those questions. And this thing that we are talking about is a very powerful thing, because it's also very important in what is called social engineering, like right now in Kenya. We are talking about Kenyans who are, you know, wanting change, and you're wondering, why is it that this guy, the moment we try to hit him so hard, it becomes hard. You know, it becomes even more. He tries to evolve himself. All those are things which are found in the issues of mental functions. So like for example, me as a practitioner, I know exactly the mental functions of the one-time guy. And I can tell if I'm supposed to be working with oppositions, I know exactly what can hit him. You know, it can get to that. So think about if this thing can be used on several, how much more can you use this for your own sake? This is almost like getting the AI for your design. Really, basically, that's what it is. Getting the AI for your design, and then you make it do for you, help you, so that you can become a better version of who you really are.
Great. As Liz is asking, can one's personality change over time?
Your personality can never change over time, but your cognitive function will grow over time. And so it means that there are certain defaults that you had when you're younger. The moment that you become aware, the way you step, and really, this is what leadership is about. And that's what they never told you about. Leadership is a challenge because leadership is a human call. You've been called by God to be a human. Let me give you an example. And thank you for that question. Are you aware of this man whose sacrifice was not accepted? And instead of looking for the problem of why his sacrifice was not answered, what did he do? He decided to kill his brother, right? And why? Because his mental faculties were not in a place where he could control. The design that he had did not allow him to think clearly about the actions. And at that time, all he had was blackness. He basically had darkness. All the mental, like now that Lisa's asked, there's this guy called Jacob. Jacob is a very tricky guy. His personality was INTJ. And he goes around taking advantage of everyone. And guess what? Until he meets God. And the moment he meets God, what happens? His personality has not changed, but his awareness becomes different. And even the way he behaves after meeting God is different. They never change, but the cognitive functions, your awareness about those things are going to change. And so if people look at you and say, hey, na huyu jamaa amebadilika, yes, umebadilika, but your personality has not changed. Because like I said, Liz, I talked about the age of your design. Let me just go back there. If you look here, for example, most of you are below maybe 50 and below, or maybe 60 and below. There are certain part of your inferior functions that are still growing up to now. And so you might be aware of those inferior functions and you can try to become better at them. But you know, these inferior functions can never beat the dominant functions that became so well developed by the time you are 8 years old. I don't know if I answered that.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's making sense. Yeah, June said, wow, wow, wow. Somebody, David Ndolo said, can you share the second to last slide? I don't know what that means, whether just to show it, the second to last. Yeah, that
This
one
one?
there. Yeah, maybe you can keep it there a bit.
Mm.
The other one is Theo Nguru, great presentation, very informative. Wow, have learned that stress. Now, somebody asked, Asante Sana, it helps with EQ. Please share the test site link. There is a test site link that, there is a copy, a word copy, which I can share in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, you
But
can.
yeah, that one I can share, and also the slides. Then Jackie asked your friend, how would you explain the current conflict in our country? Is it a generational gap issue?
Allow me to share with you, and I was even scared of saying this when I was preparing for the presentation, but I'm gonna speak anyway. Are you aware of certain leaders, for example, this guy who was called Napoleon Bonaparte, who led several fights in Europe? Now, there are two different designs. One is called the ENTJ, another one is called the ESTJ. Now, these two different designs are the only designs among a spectrum of 16 designs that allow me just to go take step back. Now, most human designs are either present oriented or future oriented. So most of the time you'll either find that somebody is always thinking about the future, and most of the time when they think about the future, they might ignore the present. Or you find somebody is so focused on the present that when you try to talk to them about next year, their mind can never go there. Now, these are the way our mental attitudes and functions. It is not like it is wrong to be either, but there are two personality types that are always at the bridge of almost being able to be present and being able to be future oriented. And Ruto's personality is one of them. Now, one of the biggest problem with him is the more problem you bring to him, the more he rises above the problem. So his design is the kind of design that there's no amount of shame that can bring him down. The moment you throw stones at him, he will always find a way of using that stone to do something else. But of course, there's always the element of surprise. You're talking about this? No. You know, the older generation that we had, and maybe we are part of it, we are part of the generation that information was something that was so dear. In the current generation, meaning is really the problem. People have got information everywhere, but they have no meaning. So Ruto's generation and all those leaders, these are people who are maintaining the status quo. They can't stomach the thought that young people can even demand for their rights. They can't even stomach that, because you know we were brought up in models that were called the shame cultures. We were brought up in shame cultures. But now most of the world has become a global village whereby shame is no longer a commodity to be sold. We are largely influenced by the United States, which is running, and the Western world, which is running on honor culture, that everybody is honorable. It doesn't matter what you have, that you have a right to speak. You have a right to express yourself. That's the way I look at it. I don't think it's about, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw Mary Ann had her hand up, but maybe you'll answer one more question. How does environment affect your personality?
Like I said, the issue of personality is a very difficult thing, because personalities are what are called mental functions. Mental functions and mental attitudes. So let me just take you back there. I'm gonna go back here. There's something that I didn't have a lot of time to explain some of these things. Now, I just wanted you to see this. Whatever compels one of the things that compels human beings are called nurture. And nurture is basically human development. Like, there's part of what I do, which is called timeline therapy. There are certain things that happen to some of us, not to us directly, but these things happen to our parents when our parents were conceived, when our mothers and our fathers were in the womb. And whatever happened to them, some of them even trauma, these things affected them. And because it affected them, they've carried that trauma, and these guys have brought us up. And so you realize that the formation of personalities is a combination of so many complex things. It is a combination of, because there are mental functions and mental attitudes. So some of them are actually created by the state of our lives before even our parents came up. It is a complex, it is something that I can use the word, there's a word that we use, it's called multiplexing. It's a very multiplexing. But the truth is a lot more. It is almost like picking a number out of a million, that kind of thing. But it's generated. It is actually influenced by the environment. Which environment we cannot specifically tell, but you can tell the way children are born when their mothers were going through certain hardships or through certain traumas. You can see that their children are going to develop certain particular cognitive functions. You can actually follow it down the line, but there's no guarantee. It is something which we call multiplexing. It is something that picks up. The only thing that we can do, especially as consultant, is to interpret what is right there and how to manage that which you have. But in terms of determining the personality of the children that are going to come from you, that is something that you can do by going through whatever we call the healing processes. That whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that, whether it is trauma, whatever it is that you're going through, if you do not heal the wounds that hurt you, you are going to bleed on those who never cut you. There is always something going down your lineage, and it could be something that has happened before.
Yeah. Thank you very much. In other words, there is a part that environment will always play, and that is the nurture. Just before I call Mary Ann, because we are also running out of time, allow me to mention that there is an information session that Live Your Dream is going to have at 10 today on how people can qualify to become certified as women in digital business trainers by ILO. And you are welcome to be part of that. There is more information in that link I have put there, and I'll remain behind a bit to answer some questions. Mary Ann, you had your hand up. Something you may want to say or comment on?
Hey, yes, thank you. I actually wanted some clarification. I did the MBTI a while back, and I got I'm an ENFJ type person. I'm an extroverted person. Then a while back, not that long ago, I did again, and it came back as, I think I've changed an F, and now it's a T. And I was wondering, you said that we can't change our personality. Yes, before I found, what have I changed? Because the level of my unbotheredness nowadays is on a different level than before. And then I was told maybe I'm an ambivert. Is that also in the MBTI, or what is ambivert? Thank you.
Thank you. Your knowledge is beyond your class. But let me tell you this. I happen to have gone through a different, I've done MBTI. I've also moved away from MBTI. I've done something called the OPS system, or Objective Personality System. And in the Objective Personality System, the 16 personalities are pushed to 512. So we have, if I would bring it so small, we say 16. But in the real case, we have 516, and your personality is one of them. Let me try to answer your question. Most of the time, the tools, including the one that I've shared, is not an official MBTI tool. And whatever we are trying to harvest in these tools are actually mental faculties. It is so difficult getting a mental faculty from just words. And so that's the reason why most of the time, even if I gave you a simple test, there's something that we call there's another test we call, is almost like a recalibration kind of test. I need to make sure that really whatever you chose was really what it was. And so depending on the kind of tool that you used, the way they frame their questions, because these are just questions. Sometimes some of the ways they ask the questions is a way that you might just find yourself answering specific ways, and then you go do it in a different way. Your awareness might have changed, but your personality will never change. You know why? Because of the growth. Remember what I was sharing you about how old, it's like there's even, there's one that I did, there's another training that I did with a group called Personality Hacker. With them, they say that your first function is actually the age that you are. Your second function after 25 years is your age mates. Your third function is like having a 10-year-old in your car. Like you have a 10-year-old on that seat. And then your last function, which is actually the inferior function, is a 3-year-old. So you can imagine up to about 40 years, the two functions are basically like within you, you're hosting a 10-year-old within you, and you're also hosting a 3-year-old. Can you imagine the way you try at 40 or 35, you're trying to reason with a 3-year-old? That's exactly how you can try to be reasoning with your own functions, because they're not fully developed. And that's the reason why it is important for us to be very intentional about awareness about cognitive functions. Why? Because now we can take the moment the day you will know about the cognitive function, whenever you are talking, whenever you're doing anything, you're going to be more aware. You're going to be more intentional. And the reason why, let me just say this so that I can conclude, is because the moment you're aware, let me just give an example about the right hand. I'm a right-handed guy. I find it easy to use my right hand until the day that I realize that when I move, I'm called a right-handed guy. So in my next conversation, when I'm going to meet left-handed people, you know what I'm going to show? I'm not going to show my right hand. I'm going to try to shake them with my left hand. The question is it going to be comfortable? Not really. But at least those guys who I'm going to be shaking their hands who are left-handed, they will recognize that, you know what? Oh, he greeted me with my left hand. That's exactly the hand I need. So little by little, we can become better at these functions. But in terms of being perfect, no, we can never be perfect. In terms of change,
Great.
no, we can never change.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I think we can run this till 10 a.m. our side, but you also need to sleep. Okay,
No,
so
I'm here.
yeah,
I'm
we
here.
will close the official part and then
Yeah.
open that for further questions.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, stay there. You don't need to run away. We still have some announcements about meet and greet and also other upcoming street things. I'd like to welcome Antonia to give a vote of thanks, and then also the announcements, and then we can move on to close the official session part. Antonia?
Yes, good morning, everybody, on PowerMonday today. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, good morning.
Sorry, I am joining with my video off. I don't know what happened to it. It just decided to disappear and my laptop misbehaved, so I changed gadget. So I would like to thank the 68 members who have managed to join our PowerMonday today. It's always a blessing to have you. We are here because of you, because if we do not have this audience, we will not have planned for such a meeting. So thank you so much for the sacrifice you always make to meet here. And I also want to thank our PowerMonday team, the ones who organize for such meetings, being hosted by our one and only Live Your Dream under the leadership of Paul Peter.
We really are grateful. Our board, Melvin, our journalist, Odhiambo Olale, our moderator, Able Lady Noel, and also our chairman, Paul Peter. We really are grateful for always making sure we get these speakers who have information that can really change our lives. And also our great gratitude goes to our speaker for today, Carol Peters. We are grateful for the great insight that you have provided for us today on conflict management. The peace may prevail, may always prevail. Thank you for the great insights. We really are grateful. Those are valuable insights that can help us have harmonious environments in our workplaces, at home, and also as we interact with each and every day people that we meet in our daily lives. Thank you. My key takeaway are is it 4 or 5? 5 ways in which we bring harmony, that model of resolution: the discover, deploy, design, and distinguish. Thank you so much. This is really key in helping us create those safe environments, harmonious environments for ourselves. We can never get enough of this, so you can be sure we will definitely look for you. I trust you've given us your contacts so that we can be able to reach you for more of this, because this is what really makes life more interesting. Thank you so much. And on to our announcements. Our meet and greet is coming up this month, which starts tomorrow. And we are grateful to host you again. This time round, we are within the suburbs of Nairobi at the Great Gardens of Botanical Gardens in Langata. And we will give details on the same. So kindly, let's start registering. We will also communicate on the amount that you're going to pay, and we will give details on the directions for those who will be joining us for the first time. So asanteni sana, and let's have a great week ahead of us.
Thank you.